Something happens in Stranger Things Season 5 episode 4 that makes you stop, breathe, and realize this is the moment everything changes. It's not just a plot twist or a cool scene. It's the way every character's pain, fear, and hope crash together in a way that feels huge but personal. Episode 4 doesn't try to impress you, it pulls you in and makes you feel the weight of the story like never before. And the deeper you look, the clearer it becomes. This episode isn't great by accident. It's great because every beat is designed to hit exactly where it should. What makes episode 4 so powerful isn't the monsters, the mystery, or the big stakes. It's the emotional pressure that every character carries into the story. This episode doesn't rush into action. Instead, it slows down just enough to let you feel the ache behind every choice the characters make. You start to notice how the past is tugging at each of them, pulling them closer to moments they've been avoiding for years. It's the kind of writing that doesn't need dramatic speeches or loud confrontations to show the truth because the truth is already living in their eyes, their silence, and the way they breathe through their pain. Elle's struggle in this episode is one of the clearest examples of this emotional force. She isn't just dealing with the threat of the upside down, she's fighting the feeling that she's losing control of who she is. For the first time, the show lets you sit with her fear instead of pushing past it. You see her doubt everything she once believed about herself, and that uncertainty becomes a kind of quiet storm. The writers make you feel her loneliness without ever saying it out loud. And because the show treats her emotions seriously, her smallest moments become just as intense as any supernatural danger. Then there's Will, who carries a different kind of weight. Episode 4 gives him space that he hasn't had in years. His feelings aren't hidden behind jokes or background scenes anymore. Instead, the episode lets his emotions rise slowly, like something he's been holding in his chest for too long. You can sense that he wants to speak, wants to explain what he's been feeling, but fear keeps stopping him. The beauty of this episode is that it doesn't force a grand confession. It simply shows how deeply he cares, how much he wants to protect the people he loves, and how painful it is to carry that silent responsibility. It's the kind of emotional writing that feels real because it's quiet, human, and honest. Hopper's presence in this episode adds another layer to the emotional core. He isn't shouting orders or fighting monsters. Instead, he moves through the story with a heaviness that comes from everything he's survived. The episode lets you see how badly he wants to be strong while still showing how much those battles have cost him. Hopper's scenes remind you that bravery isn't loud, it's steady. It's waking up every day knowing you might lose more than you can bear, but still choosing to keep going. In many ways, Hopper becomes the emotional anchor of the episode, grounding the story with a sense of raw, lived-in pain. What makes all of this work so perfectly is how these emotional threads connect. No scene feels random. Every moment carries a sense of build-up, like the characters are being pulled toward the same emotional point even if they don't realize it yet. Episode 4 uses these feelings to create a pressure that grows quietly in the background. You can sense something coming not because of mystery, but because of emotion. And that's what turns episode 4 from a good chapter into a perfect one. It's the calm before a storm made not of monsters, but of hearts finally reaching their breaking point. The brilliance of episode 4 becomes even clearer when you look at how carefully the episode is structured. Nothing feels rushed, nothing feels stretched, and every moment feels like it belongs exactly where it is. The pacing is one of the strongest parts of this episode because it works like a heartbeat steady when it needs to be, quiet during emotional moments, and fast when tension rises. Instead of jumping from scene to scene just to show action, the episode creates a smooth rhythm that lets the story breathe. This rhythm is what makes the emotional weight from earlier scenes feel so powerful later on. Because the episode gives each moment the time it needs to settle in the viewer's mind, what really stands out is how the episode balances all the characters without making the story feel crowded. Each storyline gets just enough attention, and each shift between characters feels natural instead of forced. The episode switches perspectives with a kind of elegance that makes everything feel connected, even when the characters are far apart. You may be watching Elle struggle with her inner conflict one moment, and the next moment you're with Will quietly dealing with his own fear. But the transitions never break the flow. Instead, they make the story richer, showing how every character is carrying a piece of the larger puzzle. This is how the episode keeps tension high while still giving the audience these soft, emotional breaths between big moments. Another key part of the structure is how episode 4 uses parallel storytelling. The different characters may be experiencing completely different situations, but the emotional tone matches from scene to scene. When Elle is facing a moment of doubt, the episode cuts to Hopper facing a moment of reflection. When Will feels torn between his silence and his desire to speak, the next scene mirrors that feeling through another character's struggle. These parallels create a sense of unity, as if every storyline is being pulled forward by the same invisible force. This technique is subtle, but it's one of the reasons the episode feels so complete. It makes the entire story feel like one big emotional buildup instead of separate pieces thrown together. The flow of episode 4 becomes even more impressive when you look at how it builds tension. The writers avoid the usual method of throwing constant danger at the characters. Instead, they let the tension grow slowly, layer by layer. Small moments of fear, hesitation, or confusion quietly gather until the pressure becomes almost unbearable. By the time the episode reaches its final scenes, the tension feels earned. You can sense that all the earlier emotional beats, all the quiet moments, and all the subtle clues were placed there intentionally to lead you toward this point. It's the kind of storytelling that rewards viewers who pay attention. Because the structure isn't just about moving the plot, it's about shaping the emotional experience. What makes this structure truly perfect is how everything connects in the final moments of the episode. The slow build, the shifting perspectives, the emotional parallels, they all converge with a sense of purpose. You realize that every scene, no matter how small, was guiding you toward the same turning point. The episode doesn't need a huge explosion or a shocking reveal to make an impact. It's the way the story's structure slowly tightens around the characters that makes the ending hit so hard. And that's why episode 4 stands out, not because of one big moment, but because every part of it was shaped with intention. The structure doesn't just hold the story together, it elevates it, turning good scenes into powerful ones and powerful ones into unforgettable ones. Episode 4 doesn't rely on loud reveals or heavy exposition to expand the Stranger Things universe. Instead, it uses quiet hints, subtle details, and carefully placed moments to pull you deeper into the mystery of the upside down. What makes this episode unique is how it treats the world building like a living element, something that grows and shifts in the background while the characters move through their emotional struggles. You're not just told how the world works. You're invited to observe it, question it, and feel the weight of its secrets. The episode understands that mystery is most powerful when it doesn't give everything away at once. And that restraint is what makes the atmosphere feel so thick and absorbing. One of the most impressive parts of the world building is how episode 4 expands on the upside down without turning it into a simple villainous realm. Instead of showing it as just a dark mirror of Hawkins, the episode slowly reveals clues that suggest the upside down has rules, patterns, and maybe even a purpose that the characters still don't fully understand. You start noticing strange symbols, reactions, and changes that were never explained before. These aren't big, flashy clues. They're subtle enough that you might miss them if you blink, but they carry huge implications. The strength of this episode lies in how it invites you to piece together the meaning yourself. Every detail feels intentional, like a puzzle waiting to be solved. The way the episode handles foreshadowing is another one of its hidden strengths. Instead of making obvious hints, it hides them in everyday moments, like a line of dialogue that suddenly feels heavy, a glance that lasts a second too long, or a sound in the background that doesn't fit. These small touches make you feel like something is moving beneath the surface of the story, just out of reach. Episode 4 doesn't want you to figure out everything immediately. It wants you to feel that pull, the sense that something big is coming, even if you don't know what it is yet. This is the kind of foreshadowing that sticks in your mind, making you want to rewatch scenes just to catch what you may have missed the first time. The mystery also deepens through the way the episode blends emotional moments with supernatural ones. Instead of treating them like two separate parts of the story, episode 4 lets them bleed into each other. A character's fear might trigger a strange reaction in the environment. A memory might connect to something happening in the upside down. A personal struggle might align with a dangerous shift in the supernatural world. This creates a feeling that the upside down isn't just a place, it's something connected to the characters on a deeper level, something that reacts and evolves as they do. This connection adds a new layer to the mythology of the show and makes the world feel more intelligent, more alive, and much more threatening. Another unique strength of episode 4 is how it answers old questions while creating new ones at the same time. The episode isn't afraid to reveal pieces of long-teased mysteries, but it never gives answers without raising the stakes. You might finally understand why a certain event from a past season mattered, but that understanding leads to even bigger questions about what's coming next. This keeps the viewer hooked because the story feels constantly in motion, always opening new doors even as it closes old ones. It's the kind of storytelling that respects the audience's curiosity. It rewards you, but also challenges you to keep thinking beyond what you're seeing on screen. By the time episode 4 ends, the mystery feels deeper than it did at the beginning, but not in a confusing way. It feels deeper because you understand more. You've seen pieces of the truth that the characters may not even realize they've discovered. The world has grown in subtle, meaningful ways that will shape the rest of the season. That's what makes episode 4 unforgettable, not because it reveals everything, but because it reveals carefully. It gives you just enough to feel the gravity of what's coming, while leaving enough hidden to keep your curiosity alive. And this perfect blend of answers, questions, hints, and atmosphere is what turns the episode into a mystery worth revisiting long after the credits roll. What truly pushes episode 4 into the perfect category is the way it uses pure cinematic craft to tell its story. Even without loud action or massive set pieces in every scene, the episode feels grand, precise, and deeply intentional. The visuals and sound are not just decoration, they're storytelling tools working quietly in the background, shaping emotion, tension, and atmosphere with every frame. This is the kind of filmmaking where even a shadow on the wall or a distant rumble can carry meaning. Episode 4 proves that Stranger Things isn't just a show with monsters and memories, it's a series built with the care of a feature film. The use of lighting is one of the clearest signs of this craftsmanship. Episode 4 plays with light and darkness in a way that mirrors the emotional journey of the characters. When someone feels lost, the scene might be swallowed in softer shadows, giving everything a heavy, uncertain tone. When a character finds a moment of clarity or hope, the lighting shifts subtly, lifting the weight in a way you can feel even if you can't explain it. The visual contrast between warm human spaces and the cold emptiness of supernatural scenes gives the audience a constant reminder of the battle happening not just outside, but inside the characters. It's not loud or obvious, but it's powerful because it's felt rather than spoken. Color plays an equally important role. Stranger Things has always used color to signal mood and danger, but episode 4 pushes this even further. Every palette feels chosen for a reason. Soft blues might represent emotional distance or fear. Deep reds might hint at unseen danger. Muted tones might show confusion or emotional numbness. These colors don't scream at the viewer, they whisper. They work beneath the dialogue, making you feel tension or relief before your brain has even processed why. This is the kind of visual storytelling that separates good episodes from great ones, because it builds emotion without a single word. Camera movement is another quiet but powerful tool in this episode. Instead of using flashy shots just for style, the camera moves with purpose. Slow push-ins create intimacy or tension, making you feel a character's heartbeat. Wider shots give a sense of loneliness or scale, depending on the moment. Even the transitions between scenes feel like the camera is guiding the viewer from one emotion to the next, maintaining a smooth flow that keeps the story anchored. When the camera lingers on a character's face just a little longer than expected, it tells you there's something deeper happening inside them, something they may not be ready to say out loud yet. Sound 2 is a major force in episode 4. The music is not just background, it's emotional language. A soft, trembling note might reveal fear before a character admits it. A sudden quiet moment might signal that something important is about to break. The sound design blends natural noise with supernatural echoes in a way that makes the Upside Down feel closer than ever, as if danger is living just beneath the surface of everyday life. Even the silence in this episode is deliberate. Silence becomes a tool that makes the audience lean in, listen harder, feel more. It's rare for a show to use silence with such confidence, but episode 4 does it perfectly. What makes all these elements truly special is how they work together. The lighting, colors, sound, and pacing merge to create a world that feels alive, breathing, shifting, reacting to every emotional beat the characters experience. The episode doesn't rely on big spectacle to impress the audience. Instead, it uses subtlety, control, and craft to pull you deeper into the story. You don't just watch the characters go through their struggles, you feel like you're inside those struggles with them. That's the magic of great cinematography. It makes the story heavier, richer, and more human. By the end of episode 4, you understand that its perfection doesn't come from one big moment, it comes from the careful layering of every visual and sound choice made along the way. The episode shows that the supernatural world and the human world are not separate, they're connected through the emotional and cinematic language that runs through the entire story. This level of detail is what makes episode 4 unforgettable. It's not just written well, it's crafted with the kind of precision that turns a single episode into a complete emotional experience. Every great episode needs a moment that stays with you long after the screen fades to black, and episode 4 delivers exactly that. It doesn't rely on cheap shock value or forced surprise. Instead, it builds a moment so carefully, so deliberately, that when it arrives, it feels like the only thing that could have happened. This is the kind of scene that changes how you look at the entire season. It takes every emotional thread, every hint, every quiet moment of fear or hope from earlier in the episode and snaps them together in a single, powerful climax. It's the moment when you realize the story has been preparing you for this, even if you didn't see it coming. What makes this scene so unique isn't just its intensity, it's the emotional truth behind it. The moment hits hard not because it's loud or dramatic, but because it feels deeply, painfully earned. The characters don't react with perfect bravery or perfect logic, they react like people. You can feel their fear shaking beneath the surface, their desperate attempts to stay calm, their confusion about what this moment truly means. The scene becomes a collision of vulnerability and truth, where everything the characters have avoided finally rises to the surface. And the best part? It doesn't answer every question. Instead, it forces the characters and the audience to confront emotions they've been trying to ignore. Another reason this moment stands out is the way the episode uses pacing to deliver it. The build-up is slow, almost unnoticeable at first. Little details begin to shift. Conversations feel tighter. The music drops into a subtle, uneasy rhythm. The atmosphere thickens, as if the world itself is holding its breath. The viewer starts to sense something is coming, not through obvious clues, but through the quiet tension growing underneath every scene. When the moment finally arrives, it doesn't explode out of nowhere. It lands with the weight of everything that came before it. You feel the impact because you've been walking step by step toward it without even realizing it. What truly makes this moment unforgettable is how it redefines the relationships between the characters. Suddenly, things that seemed simple become complicated. Feelings that were hidden become impossible to ignore. Alliances shift. Unspoken truths break open. This isn't just a plot twist, it's an emotional earthquake. It forces every character in the story to adjust, rethink, and question what they thought they knew. And because Stranger Things has always been a show driven as much by heart as by horror, This shift hits with a double force. The emotional consequences are just as important as the supernatural ones. And episode 4 refuses to separate them. The scene also deepens the mystery of the season in a way that feels both shocking and inevitable. It reveals something the characters should have seen but were too overwhelmed to notice. It exposes a connection between the upside down and the human world that feels bigger than anything hinted at before. But instead of giving a clear explanation, the moment opens a door one that leads to even more questions. The brilliance here is that the scene doesn't just surprise you. It expands the story. It widens the scope of the season while tightening the emotional pressure on the characters. This kind of storytelling is rare because